Hey, what's going on, guys? Are you guys frustrated with the challenge of getting over fear of jumping, of manualing, of winning BMX races? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about the number one secret that I use for my athletes that enables them to get over fear, to get over the fear of winning and experience more BMX racing success. Coming up. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you guys are, guys. Welcome to BMX Coach Live. We are live, and thank you so much for showing up. I am your host, Greg Romero, and thank you so much. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be your coach. Once again, as always, if you're watching this live or watching this on the replay, make sure that you guys like the video, but more importantly, subscribe to the channel so you guys can get notified when I go live and also when I post videos. I am so excited tonight. Man, I really wanted to talk to you about one of my favorite things, one of my favorite secrets when it comes to success, helping out so many of you guys in the community that are in the chat right now, and also helping out so many of my guys that are my clients that are in the winner circle, but more importantly in the membership. It's really one of those ways for you guys to get over fear, whether that's fear of jumping, fear of manualing, fear of racing others. Maybe perhaps it's fear of losing. Maybe perhaps it's fear of winning. Whatever that is, I'm going to help you guys out with that here in a moment. Want to look in the chat and make sure you guys are doing well. Getting a bunch of heys and hello and good night and a bunch of guys coming in. Some of the usuals: JP from Canada, Jacob James, Shane Hughes, Aiden Pearson, Jake Jensen, Ride to Wheels, Vitor is in the house. Also, Jake says, when does it start? It is right now. How you doing, Jake? Welcome to the show. Devin Kelly, he says, I'm back. Johnny Vance, what's up, Greg? Yeah, man, I'm having a great afternoon here, or good evening. Yeah, really excited. I have a little tea going on right here. And so I've been taking a break from caffeine. I'm almost 3 weeks off of not consuming any caffeine, and that's really interesting. I'm noticing a big difference in my sustainable energy levels. For you younger kids, man, you guys don't have to worry about that. But for some reason, between the age of in my 30s, I started drinking caffeine, and I got addicted to it. It's quite fun, but trying something different. And so you'll see this tonight, and also have my water. So it's always good to stay hydrated. Anyways. Drew Polk is in the house, Andrew C, Steven Dagger. Hey, man, it's so awesome. I'm so grateful. If you never know, when I go live, it's like, is anyone going to show up? Because you don't see anybody, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, like clockwork, you guys show up. And so I'm so happy and grateful for you guys that are here. And it just shows that you guys are committed to improving. And also, you guys are committed to the sport of BMX racing. And that being said, right back at you guys, I am committed to you guys, and I'm recommitting to you guys every Monday for the live show here. All right, so glad we got all that out of the way. Let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? As you guys may know, sometimes I have, sometimes I'll have like boxes of information right here. I don't have that tonight. I had a really busy day today, taking care of myself. I saw my acupuncturist, I saw my chiropractor, and working on. Today is kind of like one of those take care of myself type day, right? And so I think every single one of you guys deserve that. That being said, wanted to make sure that you guys have an understanding of committing to this sport, and want to make sure you guys have an understanding what one of the major challenges is when it comes to committing to the sport, because most of us have some kind of positive motivator. Or for the most part, like we want, everyone has their different reasons as to why they're involved in BMX racing, right? And I'm talking to you guys that are participating. And, for me, I enjoyed the camaraderie. I enjoyed the challenge. I enjoyed the growth. And I also enjoyed going after the wins and fighting for wins. And so my model of the world's a lot different than your guys' model of the world. And some model of the worlds are, every single one of us, everyone has a different model of the world as it pertains to why they do BMX racing. Some of us like the camaraderie. Some of us like the challenge. Some of us want the satisfaction. Some of us are finding that we want success out of the sport. Whatever it is you guys want, listen, at the end of the day, there's still the challenge of having to race the bike, right? And racing at your full potential, because we know at the end of the day, for the goals that we want, presupposing that you guys are creating goals for yourself, there are challenges and there are obstacles in an effort to go after those goals. There's a price to pay. But let's just tone it back and rewind that back a little bit, because I think at the end of the day, one of the biggest challenges that we have is just straight up fear, right? A lot of you guys in the community, a lot of you guys talk about the fear of jumping, the fear of manualing, and perhaps you may not know it, but there is a little bit of fear of either losing or winning. And I would say, while they both seem like they're kind of the same, but they're actually kind of mutually exclusive. And I'll explain here in a second if you guys don't understand. And please make sure you guys do comment and let me know what's on your mind as it pertains to this topic here. So at the end of the day, when it comes to BMX success, listen, one of the secrets is, when it comes to BMX success, is that understanding that everything is state dependent, mentally state dependent. Your mental state is super important. So at the end of the day, the secret is to, if everything is state dependent, then it's important for you to know your outcome. All right. And I would say at the end of the day, that is probably the most important thing in life, really, is to know your outcome. Because if you don't know your outcome, then you're dealing with uncertainty, you're dealing with the unknown, you're dealing with doubt, you're dealing with fear. So without knowing, there's doubt. Without knowing, there could potentially be uncertainty. And then with uncertainty, there potentially fear comes into the equation. Okay, so you tend to hear this in the stock market a lot. It's called FUD, F-U-D, fear, uncertainty, doubt. Okay, well, the only reason why that ever comes up is because no one can predict the stock market. Okay, it's almost kind of like you can't really predict the future, right? So like if you're on the gate and you can't predict what's going to happen, then potentially you're going to deal with FUD, fear, uncertainty, or doubt. Okay, maybe one or the other, maybe not necessarily in that order, but at some point, if you don't know your outcome, then you're going to have uncertainty, and uncertainty is going to be your mental performance mind state. So I would say, number one, the most important thing when it comes to anything that you guys are doing, whether you're practicing manuals, whether you're going to jump a big jump for the first time, whether you're like a Drew Polk or a Johnny Vance that's going to jump a pro section at the Grands. They don't know if they're going to take the pro section or the amateur section. Please forgive me, Johnny, I don't know if a pro is mandatory. But at the end of the day, if you don't know the outcome, if they don't know the outcome of what it's going to be like when they jump that pro section, then there's going to be some uncertainty. And when you're uncertain, that tends to kind of like mix into your performance mind state. So the key here is to, number one, know your outcome. And then number two, get into state. Boom, there's the secret. Let's break that down. Know your outcome. Know your outcome means, okay, if it's going to be a jump that you want to jump for the first time, or if it's going to be working on a rhythm section and working on manuals, if it's going to be a race, you guys have to know your outcome. All right. So the key here would be to, before you get into the gate, for example, if you guys are going to the Grands, know your outcome. What's the result that you want? Now, if your outcome is going to be something negative, such as, well, I hope I don't crash, or I hope I don't get fifth place and not make it out of the quarter. Okay, well, those outcomes are negative motivators. And the problem with those is that the unconscious mind doesn't understand negatives. The unconscious mind takes everything for the value of the dollar, if you will. Okay. All right. So what does that mean? That means basically, if you were to say, you know what? Okay, let's say I'm an intermediate and I'm working on jumping and I'm gonna step up and try to jump something bigger. And it's like, man, if I'm that guy, and trust me, I've been there before. I've been an intermediate just like some of you guys. And so it's like, if I focus on, man, I hope I don't crash. Okay, if that's my goal, dude, what kind of state do you think I'm going to be in? My state's going to be nervousness, uncertainty, some fear. Okay. And that's not fun. I mean, who wants to approach a jump with uncertainty, fear, and nervousness? It's whack. I hate it. I'm sure you guys hate it too. Switching up and going for the water now. Ooh, that's a little cold. So knowing your outcome. So negative motivators such as that, it's unresourceful. It's no good to us. Man, it is a long way to, you're beating yourself up. Okay. It's a long way to victory, if you will. It's a long way to find success is by going with negative motivators. So what can you do? Well, you go for the positive motivators. You go for the positive outcome. You focus on what you want instead. Okay. So if you don't want to experience fear, if you don't want to crash, if you don't want to be uncertain, what would you like instead? Sometimes it might, this is where a good coach would come in handy, right? If sometimes athletes aren't able to ask those questions, right? Like, trust me, I'm a human being and I only have so much sensory acuity of what's going on in my state. But a good coach would ask, well, what would you like to do instead? And maybe perhaps when you guys are about to start working on jumping, or if you guys are behind the gate in a quarter semi or semi final at the grands, and you're feeling nervous, well, or you're feeling uncertain and you don't know your outcome, excuse me. I don't have my mask on. Please forgive me for coughing. Let me get some warm water. But if I don't know my outcome, then I need to ask myself, well, what would I like to do instead? Well, I would like to know what my outcome is. Great. What's the outcome I want? Well, I want to make the main. What would it take? Top 4 or better. With fourth place work? It's cutting it kind of tight. Might as well go for the win. Sometimes it's just as easy as doing that. It'd be interesting, in a gate of 8 pros, right? It'd be interesting to know how many guys are actually thinking about going for the win. You'd be surprised. You would think that all 8 guys would be going for the win. That's not the case. There was a guy by the name of Andres Jimenez from Colombia. He would not go for the win. He would not go for the whole shot. In fact, he would pick an outside lane and he would just go ahead and let the gate drop and start and let everyone's wheel pass and go from lane 8 and start and race from behind and get over to lane 1 or 2 and just drive it as fast as he can and let all the people that were in the lanes of, 3 through 7 right up high, and he would get underneath and top 4 or better was his game, and it served him well. It was a positive motivator. It got him into the main events in the 2008 Olympics, and he got a 4th place medal for it. So, at the end of the day, not everyone goes for the win, but I think it's best for you guys to at least go for the win. All my athletes, I teach them to go for the win. If you go for the win, you get second. Hey, at least you're going for it and you're getting feedback and you're moving closer to knowing what it's like to go for the win. And so, at the end of the day, having a positive motivator it's a lot better. It's you're accessing everything in terms of resources, right? In terms of your emotional resources, your mental resources, and hello, your physical resources. But everything really, at the end of the day, your physical resources are no good without your emotional and mental resources being configured for what the outcome that you want. And so that would be like having a car but no pilot. Okay, I know today they have Teslas, and for an $8,000 software upgrade, you can have the thing drive from here to LA and you can sleep. I get it. But at the end of the day, your BMX bicycle needs a pilot, and the pilot needs to put in the coordinates of where that bike needs to go. It would be the equivalent of an airline pilot putting in the coordinates of where that airplane needs to go. If I'm in San Diego and I want to get to Tulsa, okay, well then I need to put in the coordinates of what that's going to be like, right? If I just get in the airplane and I just say, you know what, I just hope, I don't know, I'm just going to set the airplane up in the air, and maybe we'll set it that way, but I just hope that like I don't get into rough winds and we go down and crash. Okay, well, guess what's going to happen? More than likely, you're not going to get to the destination, and you're probably going to run out of fuel because you don't know where the heck you're going. So the point is, at the end of the day, knowing your outcome, let's go from a negative motivator to a positive motivator. Let's not focus on crashing. Let's not focus on getting motoed. Let's not focus on, I just don't want to lose. The unconscious mind doesn't understand negatives. It's going to go for those goals. It's going to do whatever it takes. It's going to tap into all the resources necessary, physically, emotionally, mentally, to focus on crashing, to focus on not making the final, to focus on losing. Okay? Hope that's helpful. If you guys are finding that helpful, give me a thumbs up, throw some fire in the chat. How is the chat going anyways? Let's see what's going on. Rhythm section is my favorite place. Fear with manualing step downs. Yikes, I've paid. Rhythm sections are hard, Jake says. Cool. You guys are having a great conversations within yourselves of the community. That's awesome. I'm really happy about that. So let's talk about going from a negative motivator and focusing on a positive motivator. So, for example, if you're a guy that wants to, who said this right here? Please forgive me and let me take a second. Fear of jumping in rhythm section, Shane Hughes says. Well, I don't know why he would be fearful of that. Let's see, what else do I? Okay, unnamed BMX racer. I broke my arms 2 times. Wow, these guys are talking about accidents. Okay, yeah, Devin Kelly fractured my collarbone. Jake Jensen says fractured both my arms 4 weeks ago. Hope you guys are healing up. Yeah, so at the end of the day, fear of wrecking. Anthony McCamus says, I have a fear of wrecking, getting wrecked out during turns. Don't trust some of the other riders out there. Okay, well, that means you just have to focus on trusting yourself, trusting your ability, Anthony. That would be a positive motivator. That's shifting from focusing on the negative and focusing on the positive. Fear of wrecking out during the turns. Well, then let's focus on smooth lines and carrying speed through the turns. Okay, see how I just reframed that? Just change the focus from fear of wrecking in a turn and saying to yourself, Anthony, okay, well, what is it do I want to focus on instead? Oh, I want to come out of the turns with a lot of speed, a lot of track speed, being in front of the guys, and putting myself in a position to where I don't get passed. Okay, that's kind of a negative motivator, but putting yourself in a position to where it's really hard for them to pass you. Okay, so that's, that would be a way for you to move from a negative motivator to a positive motivator in a way, right? Reframing it to where you're focusing on the outcome that you want instead. Again, this is all about knowing your outcome. All right. If you don't know your outcome, and you're just fearful of what's going to happen. Well, then guess what? That's your outcome that you're looking after. You're deleting for that. There's no other way that you're not going after that goal, right? And that's just an incongruence of the conscious mind and the unconscious mind not being congruent. Okay, well that's a little bit I'm going a little bit tech there. I don't want to get too Carl Jung and philosophical on you, but that's a great example. Thank you. So if you don't want to crash, let's say you don't want to crash over a double. Okay, if you don't want to crash over a double, okay, well then what do you want to do instead? Well, I'll give you an example of how I work with some of my women athletes and younger athletes that are competing, that want to compete at the World Cup level, where they have to hit pro sections, right? The women have to hit big jumps down the first straight, the same as the men. I mean, could you imagine a 16-year-old junior woman has been racing for 3 years, and they're fast and skilled enough, and they're getting thrown right into the fire of racing at the World Cup level. I deal with a lot of these women all over the world, okay? And this is how I work with them. So what's the problem? Well, I don't want to crash. Okay, so if there's baggage around crashing, I deal with that anyways, but I always ask, well, what would you like to do instead? And usually it's like, well, I want to hit it smooth. I want to get, okay, great. What would that enable you to do? It'll enable me to get good backside. Cool. Boom. There's your answer. Your answer is to focus on getting good backside. Now that's a positive motivator. That's knowing your outcome. So that's the key for you younger guys. I shouldn't say younger guys, but newer guys to our sport are novices and intermediates and experts, and some of the experts that struggle, like I used to struggle as an expert when I first turned expert, being afraid of jumps at a younger age. If you guys just focus on the positive outcome that you want, right? Some of you guys that are going to the grands, like Johnny Vance and Drew Polk. If you guys are standing behind the gate during the main event, during the semi, focus on the outcome that you want. I'm going for the win. You guys aren't focusing on, I just hope I don't get fifth. If I get fifth, then I'm not making it. No, screw that. Who has time for that? Let the other 5 guys deal with that, right? So again, going back to the guys that are jumping, let's just start there because it's simple. Focus on the outcome. What would you like to do? I'd like to take off the jump lip, get a nice little arch of the front wheel and rear wheel, and keep it nice and stable and smooth, and look for the backside and land and have it look smooth and have it feel smooth and have it feel successful. Whatever that is to you, you guys have to get the submodalities of what you see, what you hear, what you feel once you have accomplished that goal. Knowing your outcome also means understanding what that's going to feel like. You have to, there's a trick that I use with guys with goals. It's like, I asked them what their performance goals are, and then I asked them, well, how will you know when you have it? So how will you know when you have successfully jumped a jump for the first time? I get messages all the time. Hey, Greg, how do I get over the fear of jumping? I'm going to hit this big old double. And it's like, man, that's a big conversation, man. And really at the end of the day, that's what inspired me to do this video, is so I can just send them the link. Hey, watch this video. At the end of the day, you got to know your outcome. What would it be like? And how will you know when you have successfully achieved jumping a big ass double? Okay. I'm smooth. I'm stable. I'm confident. I feel powerful through the air. Whatever, right? I know I feel powerful through the air because I'm working the bike. I'm working the bike to stay low. I'm really aggressive with it. So knowing your outcome is key. Okay. Now, when it comes to knowing your outcome for, say, like a big race, like the Grands are coming up, what is it going to be like when you cross the finish line? Okay. I know for me, it's going to be like, you know what? I'm relaxed because I'm relaxed. I'm confident. I'm powerful. Made the main. I'm ready to go. I'm relaxed, powerful, and confident. That's it. That worked for me. And again, my model of the world is really, really finite and small. That's not going to work for the next guy or the next guy. What's going to work for Johnny isn't going to work for Drew. What worked for me is going to work for Corbin Sherraw. What worked for Corbin Sherraw didn't work for Mike Day. What works for Mike Day is going to work for Jill Kittner. You guys have to figure it out for yourself what works well for you. And you'll know when you practice this. How will I know? What is it going to feel like when I accomplish jumping that double? How will I know? What is it going to feel like when I successfully manual that rhythm, or successfully manual that double in the rhythm section, or I successfully got through the rhythm section with speed? Okay, because if you guys are focusing on not crashing, you guys can forget it. That is a long path to success. It's going to take a long time for you guys to develop your confidence that way. You guys are going to be fighting it. That's why. You guys are going to be fighting it. So I hope this is helpful. And of course, when it comes to knowing your outcome, right? So we want to know what our outcome is when it comes to jumping, manualing, hitting a section in a rhythm section, making the final, winning a final. Okay. Once you guys know that, okay, and then I told you, right? How will you know? And you guys get those feelings, getting those submodalities, right? What's going to feel like? What are you going to see? What are you going to hear? But more importantly, what are you going to feel when you successfully made that final, or manualed that double, or jumped that double? Because those feelings are going to be your state, okay? That's going to be your ideal state. So you got to figure out a way for you to get into that state of what it's going to feel like. See what I'm saying? So if you guys can get into that state, then, man, you're already successful, okay? Because it goes like this. It's really simple. Again, number one, know your outcome. Number two, get in the state. That's it. Have a little bit of self-sensory acuity, right? Like, sensory acuity means, okay, well, I got into state, but am I shifting out of state? Okay, that's going a little bit too tech for you guys, but I think at the end of the day, you guys are getting it. I'm not going to overcomplicate it. Know your outcome, get in the state. That's it. It's really simple. That goes for anybody and everybody and anything in life, but it works really well for BMX, and you guys are going to find that it works well for you because it's working well with my winter circle athletes. It's worked well for my Olympic athletes. It's worked well with kids that I've done, faster first straight camps. I even helped out kids that are beginners, right, with this kind of technique when I would do volunteer work over at the BMX track here in San Diego in Chula Vista. Know your outcome and get into state. All right. Any questions as it pertains to what I'm talking about here, guys? Here in the chat, Jacob James throws fire. Anthony McAmis says, thank you, with an exclamation point. Jacob says, chilling with my dog, drinking coffee while listening. Drew Polk says, yes, sir. Unnamed BMX Racers doing dishes while listening. Hey, I know what that's like, man. I listen to a lot of YouTube videos, and I also do dishes while listening as well. So I know what that's like. Unnamed, you're from Utah, correct? That's right. Well, cool. That is the secret. At the end of the day, it's really simple, knowing your outcome, getting into state. Now, in terms of getting into state, I think, that's a little bit different for everybody. There's a technique I do called anchoring. Some of the guys that are watching this right now know what that is. But basically, that's triggering yourself to get into that ideal performance mind state every time. If you guys ever watched the Summer Olympics with a guy named Michael Phelps, who's a swimmer, he has a couple different anchors, right? He's in pre-staging area, with a hoodie on, he's listening to music, so he's already actually getting into that mode, but he's getting into a state. But that's almost like a pre-launch, if you will. Okay? So what is he doing before he even gets into staging, right? He's staying isolated, and he's keeping everything really simple. Okay? And then once his moto, his swimming heat gets called up, moto, you like that? Yeah, it is a moto at the end of the day. But once his moto gets called up, then the earphones come off. Whatever that big old, I don't know, whatever it is, man. It's a freaking big old swim coat that keeps him warm. That comes off. Maybe perhaps a swim cap goes on. Maybe the goggles get ready. I don't know, whatever it is. And then the last minute, before he gets into the starting block, he does something. That's basically an anchor that ensures that he gets into the ideal performance mind state. Okay? But before all that, he's already knowing what his outcome is. If he doesn't know his outcome, he's not going to win 19 gold medals. You don't win on accident at that level. It just doesn't happen. There's just too many good people in the world. So, number one, he knows his outcome. Number two, he gets in the state. It's really that simple. It's easy. It's easy to do. It's also easy not to do, so you might as well do it. Right? He's anchored himself to get in the state. Just like Sunday Night Football, their theme song comes on, it gets me into state. I'm getting into a state of becoming a fan, right? That means I'm going to get my chips, I'm going to get some water, I'm going to get my favorite beverage, bring everything over to the coffee table, get the remotes, get everything cleared out, get the TV in the right position, put my feet up, right? And I'm going with the theme song. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Right? They anchored me. Right? Just like I anchor you guys. I anchor you guys with this. That's an anchor. You guys get excited when you guys see that. I get excited. Same thing. I'm knowing my outcome. My outcome is I'm looking forward to engaging with you guys and delivering you guys some awesome content that's going to be useful. How will I know? I'll know when I'm done. But more importantly, when I'm done, I'm like, heck yeah, that was freaking awesome. Engaged with the guys in the chat. Felt really good about the content that I delivered extemporaneously. No preparation, right off the top of the dome. And I'm feeling grateful. I'm feeling empowered, but more importantly, I'm feeling empowered because I empowered you guys. That's how I'll know. And that's my state. When you guys hear that intro, you guys are excited. You guys are pumped. It's like, man, I get to interact with somebody and they're going to say my name and it's cool, man. I get it. Dude, I go on other live feeds on YouTube all the time and I'm excited when someone says my name, and I'll ask good questions, just the same way you guys ask good questions. But more importantly, you guys are anchored, and that's the whole point. All right, where do we go from here? I think that's enough. Tell you what, I'm going to take a look at some of these comments. Let's jump to the Ask Coach G section. If you guys have any questions as it pertains to knowing your outcome and getting into state, if you guys want to know a little bit more about that, let's ask some of those questions now down in the comments below. If you guys are watching a replay, ask some comments anyways. All right. I'll look over and see what's going on in the chat, and I'll see you guys back here after the break. Hey guys, I have a question. What would it do for you if you could enhance your power out of the gate, enhance your sprint speed down the first straight, enhance your skills, enhance your mental performance mind state? What would that do for your racing or your kids' racing? If you're seeing the value of enhancing your BMX performance, consider joining the community of BMX Training Pro and get the same access my Olympic athletes have enjoyed, as well as thousands of BMXers all over the world. Some members use the access to improve their gate start techniques. Some also use the access to keep them motivated to train, and you'll find your reason when you gain access and join BMX Training Pro today.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now.
Nitro with the nice flow.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now. Let's go. Stay focused, hear the heat come. Concentrate to the sound of the beat drum. Yeah. Start it up, take it back now. Check it out. This is how it's going down. Yeah.
All right, guys, welcome back. Listen, I just anchored you guys because when you see the Ask Coach G section coming up, that commercial, it's like, okay, once again, it's on. I was looking over the comments here. Again, the topic is knowing your outcome and getting your state. And Drew Polk brought up something really, really cool. He says, on this topic, a lot of swimmers slap their muscles while preparing to race. I see some BMXers doing this. Is there a muscular benefit, or is it only a mental preparation thing? Drew, I would say both. I don't know. At the end of the day, I would say most elite athletes, even at the BMX level or any other level, unbeknownst to them, they're actually putting themselves in a state just by simply having a routine, right? They know what works for them. They know what success looks like. And so they just do the same thing over and over again. And unbeknownst to them, it gets them into their ideal proper state. The problem is that state is no good unless you know your outcome. So again, the order is know your outcome, get into state. Okay? Know your outcome, get in the state. That's it. You got to know your outcome, because there's no point of getting in the state if you don't know what your outcome is. Yeah, and I would say that, listen, success leaves clues. There's nothing wrong with analyzing BMX racers or other athletes in the world that are experiencing success, right? Now, I pay attention to a lot of NFL football. There's a guy by the name of Russell Wilson, the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, in which I'm supposed to hate the Seahawks. Listen, I respect them, but yeah, they're a pain in the butt because my team is the 49ers. I grew up in Northern California. I grew up during the golden years when the Niners won 4 Super Bowls, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, Russell Wilson does a really good job of just simply exercising behavior flexibility. He doesn't say that, but that's what I call it, but in a roundabout way, he doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. And, him being the first in chief, if you will, of quarterbacking a football team, being the leader, he is the guy that sets the tone for the offense and the rest of the team. And so, I don't know what he does to get into the proper state, especially, every 35 seconds there's a play in the NFL. Not all of them are successful. Sometimes you can have, 2 first downs and then the next series it's 3 and out. Or meaning, you can get 2 first downs and then, you don't get the first down. You don't convert on 3rd down, then you have to punt. Okay, so, maybe perhaps, they just write it off and it's like, hey, you know what? They get back on the bench and they start looking at the iPad. Well, they're focusing on, hey, what could I do? What could I have done differently? What can I learn? And so by doing that, they're staying resourceful. And so where am I going with that? At the end of the day, it's important for you guys to stay resourceful throughout the entire day, especially at the grands. But yes, getting into a proper mind state, a proper performance mind state, Drew. It's definitely all about watching these athletes and see what they do. And you might see athletes jumping around and getting excited, and that's great. A lot of it doesn't take much, man. Just when you get into the gate, before you get into the gate, you guys can look around and see what guys are doing. You're going to see peripherally what they're doing, and they're just trying to get into the moment. But the problem is, I'm telling you, man, half these guys don't know their outcome, and therefore, and half these guys don't even know how to get into the proper state. A lot of guys are dealing with FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt, nervousness, right? Now, here's the thing. Nervousness isn't a bad thing. Nervousness is actually the same physiology as excitement. Remember that. So nothing wrong with that. Let's see. There was something else that someone said. Let's see here. Aiden Pearson says, when I get in the gate, I take 3 or 4 deep breaths, and I imagine me getting the hole shot. Perfect. You're knowing your outcome and you're getting the state. But I think in this case, you're getting the state and then knowing your outcome. Because you take 3 to 4 deep breaths, that means you're getting the hole shot. Man, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. That's awesome. Let's see here. There was something else that someone said here. Aaron Greenreich, go Hawks, count down Russ. Yeah, I wish the Niners had Trust me, I wish they had a guy like Russ. I think any team would go. The Seahawks, man, they need some defense, don't they? Okay, Drew Polk's asking about race day snacks. Let's get back to that. MD Sean Mike. Good to see you. Checking in from Sand Springs, Oklahoma area. Right on. Let's see. There was something else that was on topic here. BMX or 123. I have a fear of sliding out in turns where I'm trying to take it sharp so I don't get past. My local comp is very sneaky riders. Any tips? Yeah, BMX or 123. If you're just joining this, my first tip is you need to replay this video. We're talking about knowing your outcome and getting to state, but more importantly, there was a section that we discussed about focusing on positive motivators as opposed to negative motivators. So positive outcomes as opposed to negative outcomes. And you here have actually, when you say fear of sliding out, you're focusing on a negative outcome. You're focusing on sliding out. Why don't you just, it would just be more resourceful for you, and you may find, you'll find more success by focusing on the outcome that you would like instead, right? What would you like to do instead of sliding out in a turn? Would you like to take the turn really fast and maintain your speed and keep going to the next section? Okay. So there is a difference on how we see things, what our beliefs are. Man, it's crazy our beliefs when it comes to simple things like this. And BMX or 123, I'm grateful for that question, but I'm not picking on you. Please forgive me. But it's awesome. It's awesome when I see something like this where it's like, man, I have fear of sliding out in the turns. And it's so simple, right? It's like, okay, cool, man. That's great. I respect that. And what would you like to do instead? You have to ask yourself that question. I don't have all the answers. You guys have all the answers. Trust me, you guys have all the answers. I'm just here to influence you to elicit those answers out of yourself. Let's see here. You guys are talking about songs. Let's see here. Someone's talking about strength training and peaking. Okay, well, I want to keep it on topic here. Oh, here we go. No Cappy. No Cappy says, hey, coach, I have a race this Saturday and Sunday, and it would be my first race in over 2 years in St. Cloud. Is that Florida? What would you say I should keep in mind? I'm 13X. I feel like, oh man, my battery went out on this light. What would you like to keep in mind? What should you keep in mind? Well, if you haven't raced in over 2 years, then I would just focus on having fun, and I would focus on making that final and having fun. I mean, what else is there to do? You have nothing to lose. You haven't raced in 2 years, so your expectations aren't too high, but heck, man, have some fun and go for the win. That's what I would say. When you have nothing to lose, man, you have all the resources. Always be afraid of the guy that has nothing to lose. Look, I don't want you guys to be afraid of anybody, but let's see here. JP says, for BMX, my mental prep starts a few hours before a race, but for a ice hockey game, right before the Zamboni gets on the ice. Yeah, that's great. JP, I agree. Let's see. I played ice hockey too, and I would say I start to get into a performance mind state in ice hockey when I started lacing up my skates, and then I would finish off the touches of putting tape around my socks, right? Taping off my socks. In ice hockey, if you guys don't know, the socks, they kind of move around, so we use this clear tape and we wrap it around our knees and our lower leg in an effort to keep that pad in place. It's really weird, but it's also wasteful. We waste a lot of tape in hockey, both on sticks and knee pads. But yeah, that's you seeing the Zamboni clear the ice or is basically an anchor. I know, here's the thing for me, because I can get easily distracted here while I'm at the house, and I know I want to go exercise, and perhaps I might want to go for a nice road ride here on the San Diego coast, in which I literally live on Pacific Coast Highway. And so there's so many distractions going on, but I know if I have an hour of opportunity to get that exercise in, my anchor is simply taking some water and filling up a water bottle, putting my mixture in there, taking the cap, okay? And then I take my water bottle and I go out into the garage and I stick it in the water bottle cage. Once I do that, that's getting the first step, okay? We're going a little bit on a higher level. But getting that first step, it's all downhill from there. Once I get that bottle in that cage, boom, it's on. Okay, I know I've committed, so I'm triggered to commit to get out of the door. So I shut off my phone, close my laptop, I get dressed. And if any of you guys know it, like getting dressed for road cycling is just like getting dressed for a BMX race. It's a lot of gear. Like you guys have elbow pads, knee pads, maybe an undergarment, your pants, your shirt, your clipless shoes, your helmet, your gloves, your goggles. Oh, do you have enough air in your tires? It's a lot, right? Do you have water? I mean, BMXers, we have so much equipment. Same thing with road cycling. It takes me 15 minutes to get ready. And I can procrastinate. So in an effort for me to get motivated and committed, I create a water bottle. And then I go out to the garage and I shove it in the water bottle cage. That's the first step. And this probably pertains to something more like getting the first step to get motivated to leave for the gym, or getting that first step to get motivated to go outside and do sprint work, or getting motivated to, or taking that first step to get motivated to doing interval work, or doing, core work or body weight work for whatever. Getting the first step is key. That's a whole nother topic. That's going that's going to another level of mental performance. But there's a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. I recently just picked up the hard copy, but I did the Audible. He talks about habits of, if you do this, then you'll do that. Okay, and that's a really good way for you guys to get motivated. I know I'm going a little bit off topic, but that got really excited. So in other words, if you brush your teeth, then you floss. All right, let's move on to some questions. Let's see what we could do for you guys. Jacob James. Man, Jacob James has been active, man. He's been leaving comments on all these videos. The interval video, he's already messaged me a couple times, and he's like, he's doing all the hard work and doing these crazy workouts that we put up. He did the interval training a couple times in a row. So Jacob, man, thank you so much for giving me the feedback. Let's go to Jacob and see what he has for us. He says, my new mental prep for bigger races is to pay in advance. Otherwise, I can't get out of bed. Hey, man, that's right. That's the first step. That's your first step to getting motivated, is through commitment. So, boom, fist pound, Jacob. Good job, man. Let's see here. Yes, sir, S. I like to talk to myself in third person in my head, and it helps me realize I shouldn't be stressed. It's all mental. Yeah, man, I agree. Yeah, I think it's better to just talk to other people. If you're in staging, there's no point of talking to yourself, man. The conversation gets old. It could get boring. There's room for weird conversations to happen. So know your outcome, get in the state, and then just be in the flow. Get in the state doesn't mean you can't talk to other people. Okay? You're already confident that you're already in that state, right? But once that helmet goes on and it's time for you to start moving out of the chute and get behind the gate, then that's when you can fire off the anchor, right? Whatever that is. Like Michael Phelps does that last thing where it puts him in that final state. You know, he does this little slapping thing. He might touch the elbow and boom, he's locked in. And so you could be in an ideal performance mind state all day, right? All day. And I would suggest that when you're in that performance mind state all day, I think it's important to have a component of flow, just letting everything happen naturally. Have any of you guys ever experienced having an awesome race day where everything just clicked? Everything just went easy and naturally and effortlessly? And you guys, it was just way too easy. You were in the moment. You enjoyed every moment. You enjoyed laughter. You enjoyed success. Well, that's the state of flow. And being in the state of flow is the way to go. I didn't even mean that to rhyme, but you know what I'm saying? Like, being in the state of flow just means that you're here now. Wherever you are, that's where you ought to be, right? So in other words, you're not in the pit area and you're thinking you're thinking about the race and you're like, "Oh my gosh." Or you're in the pit area like Yes Sir S says, I just start talking to myself. Yeah, I don't know. That's really tough if you start talking to yourself because you're not really in the flow. If you're in staging and you're thinking about the race that you're about to do and it's about, maybe you're 3 or 4 minutes away from it, that's not resourceful. Now, I think knowing your outcome is resourceful, but you shouldn't be focusing on knowing your outcome for 5 minutes. All you have to do is know your outcome. Boom, get in a state. Call it a day. And then, one of my favorite guys is Connor Fields. I love that guy. So, like, if you guys want to watch a true pro that's actually in the flow, is Connor Fields. He really enjoys the moment. He's always in the moment. Trust me, if you guys go to the Grands and you go talk to him, he'll talk to you because he's in the present moment. His mind's not in Timbuktu. His mind's not in another universe. He is in the present moment. And when you're in the present moment, everything happens easily and naturally. It's effortless. And so I think that is a key thing that you guys got to practice is getting into the flow state. Google that. Flow state. All right, let's see what else here. Let's go to some questions. Let's see here. Aaron Greenreich says, didn't win, but didn't psych myself out. Okay, he says, I used to absolutely know that I was going to win, made intermediate and started racing next level riders at Gold Cup and state races. Didn't win, but didn't psych myself out. Good. You never know what's going to happen and you have to be ready to capitalize on opportunities. Yeah, so I would say, Aaron, at the end of the day, that just means you're just being resourceful. That means, and being resourceful is part of being in the flow, right? Just, whatever, it's kind of like a quarterback who's going to read the defense. Okay, well, they're showing man coverage. Let me just call it an audible and make an adjustment. He's in the flow. If he's like, oh my gosh, dude, like, they got 2 safeties over the top and no receiver's going to get open. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? If the quarterback starts to overthink that, he's going to get sacked. He's not going to have the feet. He's not going to have the feet to move around. And he's not going to be able to go through his progressions of looking at all the receivers to go to. Oh, that guy's not, he's going to focus on one guy. I hope he gets open. And then he's going to miss the guy that was open. But, the point is that at the end of the day, being resourceful is all about being in the flow. Being in the flow is being resourceful. Unnamed BMX Racer says to Shane Hughes, I listen to music. It's really up to you. I find music like AC/DC and some other stuff I'd never heard of. Here we go. Here's another question. CDDBZ question time. I love that name. CDDBZ question time. That's your YouTube handle, man? That's awesome. Do you have any tips on a small berm with a full gate together at the same time? I don't understand the context of the question. Do you have any tips on a small berm? Yeah, man, get to the berm first and cover the inside. Don't let anyone underneath you, right? Cover that inside. Make them go around you. They won't go around you, but yeah. Let's see here. Andrew says, I talk to myself out loud. Sean A says, I talk to everyone in my shoot. Unnamed says, my friends think I'm crazy when I talk out loud. Let's see. Okay, you guys are having fun with me. No, Unnamed, I've never heard of that band. Okay, let's see. I need to get. Come on, you guys are distracting me. I gotta answer some good questions here. Okay, here we go. Jay Tamayo, what should you do to mentally prepare for your first grands? Ooh, what should you do to mentally prepare for your first grands? Well, I would say, what is it that you want out of your first grands? Because it's going to be an experience you've never experienced before. Perhaps you could do a lot of recon, watch a lot of BMX races, okay? Watch as many videos as you can from various different grands and get to know how they tend to build these tracks, all right? A lot of these tracks, they have a small starting hill. First straight's it's rare that it's really long, but they always have a really long rhythm section. So I would say prepare yourself physically, right? Make sure that you guys have enough power to compete out of the gate, down the first straight. That's obvious, duh. Number two, make sure that you guys have your power and endurance configured. Make sure you guys can go long on rhythm sections. Okay, because those two things are going to eliminate any uncertainty or doubt in terms of your physical preparation. That's going to help with your mental preparation. Now, when it comes to your mental preparation, there's all kinds of different ways you can go about it. And I would say, number one, you got to know what your outcome is. I think it's important. Some people, I'm not going to beat anybody up for having the goal of like, hey, I'm just going to go and have fun and see what happens. But a lot of people say that because they're just afraid of creating a goal. They're afraid of creating a goal. And they're afraid of creating that goal because they're afraid that they're going to fail because they didn't achieve it. And I'm not going to pass any judgment on that because I've done that too. However, there's no feedback on that for your BMX racing development as a rider. So I think knowing your outcome and creating a goal is really important. And then number two, make sure that goal is configured as a positive motivator. Again, if you're just joining us, maybe perhaps you missed the section that we talked about in the beginning, which is focusing on something that you want, right? Focusing on a positive outcome, okay, as opposed to a negative outcome. So a positive outcome would be, maybe perhaps I want to go as far as I can in qualifiers and I want to go all the way to the main. You could perhaps say something like that. Write it down on paper. I don't know. Do something. Maybe type it in your phone. Grands goals. I'm going to have fun, and more importantly, I'm going to make the main. That's my goal. And so once you know your outcome, then you have to understand, what is it going to feel like when you have achieved that outcome? Elicit all those feelings, all those kinesthetic feelings. I'm going to be joyous. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be empowered. I'm going to be confident, whatever, right? Like the list is, you can go for days on so many different positive feelings that one can get from making the final or winning a final at the Grands. Elicit those feelings, and then you have to get into those feelings right before the races. Okay? You have to percolate and stimulate those feelings right before you get on the gate. And that's going to be your performance mind state. So I think the thing is, when you say mental prep, what does mental prep mean to you? I know what mental prep means to me. And basically at the end of the day, You have a mental mindset, okay, which is going to consist of your values and your beliefs. Your mental mindset may contain something to the effect of, hey, I'm a confident and prepared and awesome, powerful rider, okay? And then that's going to be, again, mental prep is going to be mindset. And then your mind state's completely different. Well, what state do I need to be in to achieve the goal that I want? Again, we spoke about in the beginning, knowing your outcome, getting to state. Okay, so we covered that part in the beginning. If you missed that, then rewind back and watch that. But at the end of the day, knowing your outcome and getting your state, that's the key thing. Okay. And I'm not going to try to confuse this, but at the end of the day, you know, it may be too late to work on your values and beliefs. However, it's not too late to work on knowing what your outcome is and then knowing what it's going to be like when you achieve that goal. Therefore, that's going to be your state. So therefore, you need to get into that state. Again, know your outcome, get in the state. That's how I would do it. Being that it's already November 9th and shoot, I think we're less than 3 weeks out from traveling, right? We're less than 3 weeks out. So really, you only have about 2 weeks to prepare. You're not late. You could probably start preparing now or not. And if you do, I would start focusing on the mental mindset of getting yourself in enough physical shape, whether that's configuring your power or your power endurance or your ability to get around the track. Do as much as you can in the next 2 weeks. And then again, I would focus on knowing your outcome and then focus on getting your state. That's how I would prepare my mental performance mind state in 2 weeks. All right, good luck. All right, guys, let's see. What else do we have here? Sean A. Hey, coach, I usually get scared of hitting someone and back off whenever people get really close to me, like in the first turn. Do you have any advice to help this? Again, I would say as your coach, I would say, well, when you get close to somebody in a turn, what would you like to do instead? How would you like to feel instead of being scared? Okay? Because at the end of the day, if I don't know what you want to feel, listen, that's going to be the question. Okay, that's not rhetorical, but maybe perhaps ask yourself that question. What would you like to feel instead? And if that means you want to be, something to the effect of, aggressive and confident and powerful and whatnot in the turn, then just be that. It's really simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Just be that. Just focus on what you would rather be instead. At the end of the day, that's an easy way to reframe your performance state, especially when you get triggered going into a situation in the context of getting close to riders in a first turn. Hopefully that's helpful. Thank you so much for the question. Okay, so Aiden Pearson says, I'm 15 intermediate, going to Grands for my first year, and my goal is to make my semi and cruiser and make podium in class. Great. And you know what? I like these goals for you, Aiden, and why not just make the main in both classes, and why not just get on the podium in both? Seriously, man. Just go for the win. Go for that success. Don't be afraid of success. Because if you don't go for success and you dumb your goals down, then how are you going to know what the feedback is going to be like if you don't accomplish it? If you don't set high goals, and you guys set low goals, you guys are not getting enough feedback to punch through that mediocrity level, right? You guys, if you guys want success, you got to set successful goals. Listen, I'm not trying to beat you up, Aiden. I appreciate the fact that you're going for the podium, but why not do it in both classes? That's all I'm trying to say, man. 17 days till grands, yeah. Jay Tomeo says, awesome, thanks, coach. Let's see here. Andrew says, do you have any tips on how to deal with skinny first straights? What is that? My local track gets skinnier in the first straight, and whenever there are 4+ riders side by side, people almost always crash. Yeah, man, get out front. I mean, straight up. I mean, get out front. You know, there was a rider by the name of Robert DeVilde, world champion pro, used to race with GT back in the day. He's from Holland, the Netherlands. And he was a tough racer because he would get out in front of me and like he would almost always make me crash, right? Because I was dealing with like a skinny pro section, if you will. And I would belt, you know, pros, we had no problems voicing our opinions back then because it was like, you know, it was kind of like a fraternity, if you will, right? We had rapport with each other, so we could speak our minds to each other. We did so much racing back then. It was like I knew the pros better than their family knew them, if you will, right? And same goes with me. Like these pros that I used to race with back in the day, they knew me better than my family knew me. So therefore, I was able to say stuff to him, and I would be like, Robert, like why in the hell are you trying to like cut me off over a jump? Oh, dude, and he would just say something, you know, smart, like, well, dude, you know, like I'm not trying to get passed by you, you know. He goes, and then he would say something snide like, well, you should have been in front of me. And Andrew, that's all I'm trying to say. Regardless of a skinny first straight, listen, I don't have an answer for that. You know, what am I going to say? Hey, have the track operator accommodate everybody and make the straight wider. Okay, well, you could do that, but at the end of the day, races still get tight. You can make you can make a first straight as wide as the 5 freeway here in San Diego. It's 5 lanes wide with a diamond lane, right? And things are still going to get tight towards the inside of the straight going into the first turn. Get out front, man. That's the whole point of that story. Is Robert DeVille would just say, "Well, you should have been in front of me," and I'd be like, "Damn it, he's right." And so I would focus on being in front of him, and I think that's what you should do when a first straight is skinny and tight. If the competition is tight and there's not enough room, get out front, man. If you're not getting out front now, find ways to do it. Work on your gates, work on your acceleration power, work on your leg speed down the first straight. There's all kinds of videos that you could check out here on the BMX training channel. If you're not finding them there, then check out the membership. There's many ways for you to get the whole shot at bmxtraining.com. Jacob James says, try the quarantine. Jacob James says, try the quarantine workout. Yeah, that's a good workout. The quarantine workout is something that it's a video that's on this channel. Just look it up. Just search the channel, Google quarantine. It's a really tough workout. It works more on power endurance though, Jacob. I don't know if that's going to work. It could work. It could indirectly help out the first straight because the fitter you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, especially before the gate drops, you're going to get a better gate. You're going to have more acceleration. And you're going to pull all the way down the first straight and whole shot. So yes, being in shape is helpful. Yeah, check out the quarantine workout. Let's see here. Yeah, motocross racing gets real tight in the first turn. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? Let's see here. Yeah, Jay Tomato says, I have a goal of winning ROC at the class at my first grands and intermediate. Is that a good goal or should I be more realistic? I don't think that's unrealistic, man. I mean, how many intermediates are going to multiple grands, man? No, go for the win. If you don't go for the win, someone else is going to go for the win. If you don't go for the win, then you're not going to win. BMX racing is not a sport where you win on accident unless everyone falls. Go for the win, man. What's the worst that can happen? You're going to get feedback that you failed? Listen, over here at BMX Training, once you're in the community, all you guys have the number one presupposition embedded in your mind that there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. So go for the win. That's great. All right, guys. Well, hey, people are asking about diet tips. Yeah, listen, I hire people to help me out with my own diet. I'm not going to give away. Listen, diet tips are crazy, man, because you're dealing with a lot of different metabolic systems, right? You know, there's so many different blood types. I mean, I don't want to convolute this conversation, but like I'm an A positive blood type. My significant other's O. She's an O positive. O positives thrive off protein. A positive thrive off of leafy vegetables. Andres Diaz, hi, I'm from Brazil, also practical BMX. Drew Polka smiling. Right on, guys. Well, hey, we have a couple of more weeks here before we send guys off to the Grands. So, yeah, I think, we'll keep focusing on things as it relates and helping out most of our community that's going to the Grands. So we're going to keep it real race specific. I would say after the Grands, we're going to start talking about things like winter prep. We're going to talk about things like strength training, you know, like how to train when it's winter time. What should I be doing? Should I be doing other sports? Should I be doing sprints? Should I be lifting? You know, my track's closed down. What should I be doing? I don't race for 4 or 5 months. Or, you know, that's here in America and most Northern Hemisphere countries, right? Like the United States and Europe and whatnot. Down under, it's their winter time, but their winter time is hot. It's actually, please forgive me. It's their summertime, rather. They still experience Christmas down in Australia and New Zealand, in South Africa and South America, but it's their summertime. So, yes, they're still going to be racing. So, I'll touch on some things after the Grands over here for us North American fans and also you guys here at the community at BMX Training. Again, we'll talk about things like winter preparation, you know, how to deal with inclement weather, how to deal with the rain, the snow, tracks are closed and whatnot. We'll talk about stuff like that. Looking forward to that. Let's see here. One more question and then I'm out of here, guys. Anthony Grasher, any advice for tapering workouts before Grands? Yes, I love talking about tapering. So, listen, I think you need to check out the tapering video that I did. It was a live video. I don't know which one it is. Just Google, not Google. Just search the channel and just type in BMX tapering. Maybe perhaps you leave a comment in this video after it indexes, after it gets all settled. Come back to this video, Anthony, drop me a message and I'll reply with a link to tapering. But tapering is basically a technique of keeping your training stimulus that you worked for and just simply removing fatigue. And how do we do that? Well, number one, when it comes to tapering, we want to keep the frequency high. We want to keep the frequency the same. So if if you're doing sprints on Monday, track on Tuesday, gym on Wednesday, keep that frequency the same. Number two, you want to keep the intensity high. That means if you're doing when you're going to the track, you're doing maximum efforts. If you're doing sprints, for the most part, unless it's like the quarantine workout where, we're actually dumbing down the intensity, we're always keeping the intensity high at the track as far as gates are concerned and efforts around the track. and also sprints, we're keeping the efforts high. When it comes to keeping the intensity high, rather, and then when it comes to the gym work, we want to keep our intensity high. So if you're working in maximum velocity lifts like plyometrics or explosive lifts, or if you're doing maximum intensity such as 85% and above, then you want to keep those intensities high. However, the key with sprints, track work, and strength work is we want to cut the volume like dramatically. So I would say I would start tapering here. If you're racing, I would start tapering no less than 7 days out. I would try to start tapering probably more like 10. Listen, if it's what I mean by tapering, I mean simply cutting the volume, right, dramatically. So I would cut the volume probably by, I would start with, I don't know, 50%, and then start moving that percentages up as you get closer to the grands. So you can go 50, 60, 70. You know, like with my Olympic athletes, the first time I did a proper taper, because it was really hard to taper with Olympic athletes, being that they have to race all these World Cups and qualify and Olympic trials. We don't have time to taper. I mean, we do mini tapers, but we're not able to do a proper taper. A proper taper is like, please forgive me. A proper taper is like 21 days out. We start cutting volume 3 weeks out from the event, and it's crazy. And it seems risky because athletes, they're just like, well, what are we doing? Like, what do you mean I only have to do this amount of sprints? Or how come we're only spending 40 minutes at the track? How come we're only in the gym for 30 minutes? Well, psychologically, it's tough to taper because we're in this mindset of more is better, right? I want to win. I want to keep going. And you want to leave it out. You want to leave every blood, sweat, and tear, underneath the squat rack or at the track or in your helmet after you've done sprints. Hopefully you guys are wearing helmets when you guys do sprints. But, at the end of the day, tapering is psychologically hard because there's such a huge dramatic change in volume. The misconception with tapering before something like the Grands is like taking a whole week off. Don't do that. Don't take a whole week off. People just, I'm going to put the bikes up, or I'm going to ship the bikes up, and I'm not going to ride my bike for a week. You're going to show up to the Grands and you're just not going to be sharp. So that's the idea of keeping the frequency high, is maintaining frequency so that you are sharp, staying sharp and keeping the stimulus, keep the intensity high, cut the volume. That's tapering. All right, guys, thank you guys so much. Man, I went extra long today. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be your coach. Again, if you guys found value in this video and you guys want more, check out my website, bmxtraining.com, become a member. Also, if you guys found any value in this video, make sure you guys like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and I'll see you guys at the races, and I'll see you guys next week. I'm committed to you guys. Make sure you guys are committed to your goals. Again, know your outcome, get into state, and I'll see you guys at the races. See you guys next Monday at 5:30. Thank you so much. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be your coach. You guys have a good night.